All right. I got to share a story before we really start the pod in earnest here. Last week, I guess this week, I was in Hawaii for work. And
Oh
it
my
creates a
God.
weird situation, right? Because I'm not sure where I can watch the game. I go out there on Sunday. I'm out there all the way through Wednesday. And I know after the Sunday game that they're going to play on Tuesday night. But I'm also like balls to the wall with work. I don't have enough time to do the kind of research I should have to figure out where I'm going to watch it and just have a landing space. So Tuesday comes around. We're about 20 minutes before game time, and I'm now running around Waikiki looking for wherever, restaurant, bar, like whatever I can do. Find a fairly nice restaurant, huge TV. So run in there, start sitting down, set up shop, and I'm there throughout. And over the next 2.5 hours I realized that the people around me are all there for a very large birthday party. In fact, they are celebrating a man named Rogelio's 69th birthday. I know that, Sarah,
Nice.
because they sang songs, they brought out a cake, the whole 9 yards. And they didn't rent out the restaurant, right? Like it wasn't that kind of move. There's a reason I was allowed in, but they brought enough people where there's not supposed to be anybody else in that fucking room. So for, again, 2 hours, there's kind of an uneasy truce between me and Rogelio's party. It is what it is. Off we go. My tension level is mounting. And then we get to how that game ended, right? It's a 5-second call. The ball gets handed over, and now the Warriors have won in dramatic fashion. And as I kind of tend to do without even thinking about it, I get up, and this time it wasn't to myself. To my defense, dude, it's, they're in the playoffs. But I scream out to nobody in particular, including the multiple kids in there who are less than, 10 years old. Let's fucking go. I scream that out. Really, pretty anxiously. And Rogelio, I think's wife, comes over and very politely asked me to leave because my passion is, quote unquote, scaring the children. So good times, Sarah. All right. Let's jump in. You are in the Warriors Huddle with me, Bram, with me, per usual, my master of all things video and sound, Maxine.
How's it going?
And rejoining us after way too long, the former Golden State beat writer and sports director for SF Bay, where she covered all things Warriors for more than 3 years. The prior beat writer for the Philadelphia 76ers, where she covered all things playoff Jimmy. The current Jazz beat writer for the Deseret News, where she was recognized as the 2022 and 2024 Utah Sports Writer of the Year, the host of the Unsalvageable podcast, and a very good friend who may or may not have left a bar if Rogelio's wife had asked her to. Miss Sarah Todd. What's going on, Sarah?
Incredible introduction. I love it so much when someone else just reads my accolades to me and I just get to sit here and enjoy it.
Would you have left? So if you're in that scenario with me, you're watching the game, and she was polite. It wasn't, there'd be a scenario there where it triggers kind of defensiveness if she had like demanded that I leave. So it wasn't that. But if some of you're in there watching the game, you're paying, you've got every right to be there just like anybody else. If they'd come up and ask you, hey, you're scaring the kids, would you mind leaving? What's your response?
Oh, man, but the game was over, right?
I mean, for all intensive purposes,
Yes.
like the ball has now gone to Steph. He's been fouled. He's about to punch up the lead to 4 and 5. So like the game's over. They're not coming back, but there's still seconds left on the clock.
I would probably been like, oh yeah, you know what? I'm so sorry. No problem. And then like dilly-dallied. Like I had to pay I got to pay the bill. I can't leave until I pay the bill just to make sure that the seconds are off the clock,
That's exactly what would have been my guess. And I can see you occasionally checking in with her, like giving her a little facial expressions like, oh no, like I'm doing, everything's fine. You can protect the children.
Yeah.
All right, here's the other, we've got so much Warrior stuff to talk about, but dude, 2-time sports writer of the year. The fact that you haven't even told, I am very impressed. I'd be wearing that shit in like necklace form everywhere I went. So nicely played.
Yeah. One of the local, like sports talk radio hosts here in Utah. The first time that I won Utah Sports Writer of the Year, I was like, oh, you should probably like refer to me with some sort of hierarchy when you have me on the show from now on. And so literally for the last 3 years, he's like referred to me as Your Highness before every radio spot that I do. And I'm like, thank you. Correct. Yes.
Oh man, is it weird, Maxine, that I got immediately jealous that somebody else is giving her good intros, like that I don't like? She dropped the like. I will be using Your Highness the next time you're on.
They also let me pick my walk-up music.
I have nothing to say. Yeah, we used to do that, and then we've lost that train for sure. In fact, Maxime, I blame you. Why are we not picking out walkout music, dude?
There's no music that's good enough for royalty. So,
boom. See that? I bet you those stupid ass hosts didn't have a quick wit. Like
I mean, in my defense, my last walk-up music on that particular radio show was E40. So,
oh, let's go.
There's a 60% chance that when you listen to the podcast version of this, because Maxime's gonna have a little magic and time between, we will have some E40 behind your your intro. So tune in to hear that. Sarah, we've got Memphis to talk about. We've got a whole Houston series to preview. Yeah. But the topic I'm most excited to ask you about right from the jump, playoff Jimmy. All right. So we've had a couple of people. In fact, you remember Wes. You and I have had dinner with Wes. Wes covered playoff Jimmy in Miami. And I asked him the same thing I want to ask you now. What's the difference between regular season Butler and playoff Jimmy? Because as Warrior fans, we're brand new to this kind of, entering the phone booth and coming out with the Superman cape on.
Yeah, it's interesting because I got Jimmy as a player to cover in Philly. That came off. It was after Chicago, after Minnesota, and then before everything else after he left Philadelphia. And so when I was like researching and looking into different interviews and stories written about Jimmy before he went to the Sixers, I was given a glimpse. Then I've seen what's happened since he left the Sixers. And he has a playbook, and he hits every note at every place that he goes to. He says the same stuff. And I think that is why I don't really believe too much in Jimmy.
Huh. There's an ending to that story I didn't think was coming. Yeah. Anyway, so we're going to end this podcast now. It's so great to see you. Really appreciate it. Say more. First, tell me what's in the playbook, and then why is it cut against your confidence in him?
Right. I mean, I first say like playoff Jimmy's a real thing. Yep. And I think that the reason that it's real is because he tries harder. And that's part of the problem that I have with Jimmy is that it's not so much that like, oh, he's a guy that can turn it on and turn it off, right? Like he's a guy that doesn't try hard unless he has to. And that annoys me. And like, I mean, we talked before the show, we hit record today. Like when you see a player that tries on every possession, it gives you a lot of confidence in that type of player. Sure. And Jimmy Butler is not that during 82. And that's fine. If you're on a team that is guaranteed to go to the playoffs, like I understand holding back. But in the playbook is him saying things like I called what he was going to say when he went to Golden State. It was like, oh, he's gone. The next team he goes to, it doesn't matter where it is he's going to say like, I'm happy to be somewhere I'm valued. I'm happy to be around guys who love playing meaningful basketball, who are unselfish. And he loves to say things like, don't worry, when the lights are on, I'll be there. Yeah. Don't worry. Like if you have to tell reporters and tell people and always be into a microphone saying like, don't worry, because he does it with like a smirk. But the subtext there is like, hey, I know I'm not shooting the ball or doing the things I need to right now, but like I promise I can. And like, I hate that. Like, just why don't you do the things you're supposed to do right now?
Let's push us into a portion of a Venn diagram where we're talking in a circle where all of us are happy for the purposes of this podcast. All right. So
hold on. I'm going to get there.
Okay. Go ahead. Then I'll give you a little bit more space. And then if I need to break in to push us into that circle, I will. Go ahead, Sarah.
Now, the truth is that Jimmy can do that. Like when Jimmy plays the way that he's supposed to, when he does all the things, he can pull a shitty Miami Heat team into a finals, right?
Yeah.
But like, I just want to like temper expectations by saying playoff Jimmy's a thing, but it still hasn't gotten anyone anywhere.
Yeah. And what we will explore is that he's never had a Batman, right? I mean, that's the idea that we can shift it. But here's what I'm hearing.
Oh, also in the playbook is him calling Joel Embiid a superhero, calling Karl Anthony Towns one of the most gifted players he's ever been around, blah, et cetera, go down the list to whoever he's played with, who's the next guy.
From the outside looking in, if you have an unpaid Jimmy Butler, you've got a problem. From the outside looking in, if you have Jimmy Butler playing anything but meaningful basketball, you've got a problem. But, and here's that Venn diagram circle, if you are playing meaningful basketball and he's getting paid, he is one hell of a fucking difference maker. And that's where we are right now. You know, I mean, we might have a problem in a couple of years, but at least for this upcoming series and where we are, you know, and I'm going to take what you said and add my 2 cents. Do you guys remember, this is old and I'm dating myself. There was a mockumentary called Spinal Tap, and it was about a band, you know, and how popular they were. And one of the scenes that always sticks out of my head is they talked to them about like, what makes you better? And they had a fake speaker, and we're 9, you know, all speakers go up to 10. Their fake speaker went up to 11. They're like, we just play louder. That switching from 10 to 11 is what it felt like now watching playoff Jimmy. You know, that's and all aspects of it. It's true with his offense. It's true with his defense. It's true with how he's dealing with teammates. You know, there is like early on here, Sarah, he gave us this vibe of if you made mistakes, it bothered him, but like, fine. If it now feels like if you made mistakes, he'd like to rip off your face and shit down your throat, which as somebody who gets super frustrated with the mistakes, that's exactly what I want to see. So there's been kind of a kick up in intensity, if nothing else.
I really like, I want to believe in Jimmy because I guess that maybe it's like all of my intuition is saying not to. So like, I want for Jimmy Butler to have like an insane series and like take a team to an actual title and for him to be able to like see, look, but even then, like, I think the fear is that Jimmy sees himself as a number 1 guy and that's just not true. And in the times that he has been put into a position where he needs to be the number 1 guy, it's not enough. So I think that is the good thing that he has going for him being on the Warriors. At the same time, like he was also not the number 1 guy when he was on the Sixers, and that didn't help him get past the Raptors, right? So I really want to see it all work. But it hasn't.
Yeah. No, and we are going to have to count on the brilliance of Steph. There's gonna be a bunch of questions that are going to trigger this. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying. And I think even like the most forceful, I mean, the people who are supporting Jimmy Butler as much as they possibly can. Do I understand that there's been some fucking rough spots along the way? Oh yeah. You know, and then like it can get dramaful. But during this playoff run, just right now, not next season, Sarah, not when maybe the contract comes up, but just right now, do you think Warrior fans can expect Jimmy at his best going forward?
For the rest of this playoff run.
Oh, boom. I'll take that. There we are. We found our Venn diagram.
Yeah.
I knew we'd fucking find it. I knew we would find it. Let's get out of here, Maxine, before she shithouses him in any other way. Let's go to our glass half full. Sarah, you remember this. You look back at Reason Warriors basketball. Give us something you like and don't. I'll give you a stupid one to start. I like playoff intensity. You almost forget. You know, you get so involved. I get too emotionally involved in all the regular season games, even the ones that don't really matter. And they end up feeling to me as a psychopath, life and death. But then you see what playoff intensity is. And I know there's a difference between the play-in and playoffs, but we got a glimpse of that in that last matchup. And I just forgot it. You know, shit, I got so involved in it. I was asked to leave a restaurant because I was scaring children. You know,
I'm sorry. You forgot it? For the last 3 years, I've been watching the Utah Jazz as a job. So this is my favorite time of the year.
Let's go.
I look at the schedule and it's like guaranteed like 5 games a day coming up every single day, no days off. And I'm like just watching the playing game. I literally was watching the Kings and Mavs and whoever else in the East is allowed to play basketball in the play-in tournament the other night. I was watching those games and I was like, God, this is great. This is great.
Dude,
and it's not even that good yet, right? But like, I was just like, oh, it feels so good to be watching good basketball.
I am so into playoff intensity. I'm even happy about matchups that didn't happen. So if the Warriors had lost, they didn't, we're fine. We're going to be talking about Houston. If the Warriors had lost, you know who they'd be playing in fucking elimination game in the final play-in? Dallas and goddamn Klay Thompson. Thank God we don't have to deal with that. Like, oh my God, I do not need that level of intensity in my life at all. I'm not going to find another place to ask you this. And so, conversational whiplash here, but who do you think enjoyed that 5-second violation more? All right. Steve Kerr or Taylor Jenkins, the Memphis head coach or ex-head coach. Because if I'd gotten fucking fired by Memphis and I'm watching that game and their Swedish hotshot coach drew up whatever it was, and it's not, maybe somebody screwed up the play. Who knows what ultimately happened, but they fumble it. If I'm Taylor Jenkins, I can't go public, but I'm firing off so many fucking text messages to everyone in my life. Like, oh, what a great 5-second fucking violation. What an incredible inbounds play they called up for that. So who do you think? Was it Steve Kerr or the ex-coach?
Who's it sweet for? Who's it sweet? Actually, probably Taylor Jenkins, because I think that like Steve Kerr in that moment, he's like, great, they committed a turnover, we'll take it. But he probably thought they were going to win it anyway, so like it doesn't matter, right? Yeah. But like, yeah, Taylor Jenkins is like, fuck this guy, I knew it.
That's 100% right. All right, so there's my Maxine, what do you got?
I mean, I'll take the obvious one. I like that we're playing Houston instead of Oklahoma City. And maybe I even like, just for my own sanity and sense of well-being over the next 2 weeks, that we're not playing the Lakers either. But, I would have preferred that we won against the Clippers. People, they're saying, oh, right, these are both young and hungry teams, Oklahoma City and Houston. They're both teams that are super physical. It's going to be rough for Golden State. No, fuck that. One of these dudes has Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is, either going to be the MVP or the runner-up. The other one doesn't. Has maybe, right, Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet. I'm just not nearly as scared. We can talk about the matchups. It's going to be a series. There's no doubt. But also, since the Jimmy Butler trade, we've been second or third overall in the NBA in terms of record. We are not a typical 7th seed going into this. We also have the experience on top of it. I'm feeling cautiously optimistic about it, and it's a damn good thing that we beat Memphis to get that 7th seed.
Add another option there. If you'd given me 2 magic buttons, one said you play the Lakers with rest, the other said you play Houston without, I'm smashing that Houston button. I mean, not to say that we're definitely going to win, but between yes, of course, I do not want to see OKC. I agree. But I prefer this matchup than the Lakers. It played the way I wanted. Sarah, what'd you see?
I just love the narratives going into the Warriors Rockets series, right? Like, as for someone who's just like always looking for the story, it's got everything, right? You've got you got Ime Udoka barking at Steph. You got teams that were already talking trash before the regular season ended. Amin Thompson being a player that looks like he can actually competently guard Steph, which is not a thing that we've seen before. You've got and then there's like kind of the greater narrative, which I was going to talk about later, but this is my favorite thing going on right now for these teams, is not only the old guard, but like, this is how you make championship dynasty teams. You need these guys that are going to last many, many years. This is how you build a team, versus like ragtag fucking misfits thrown together in Houston / a bunch of young guys that no one really knew if they could play until all of a sudden this year they could. Like, nobody's a star. Nobody's like a top 20 player, maybe top 15, right? And it's just like, does that type of team have a place in like the greater annals of the NBA? And like, this series might decide it.
100% right. And so, yeah, we're bleeding into series questions. And what I would put this under, it's the elevator pitch. It's the like, well, if you didn't really like the NBA, if you don't give a shit about playoff basketball, what is it about this series that might suck you in? And I agree. It's the history of hate. There's a bunch of fuck you relationships. There's a fuck you relationship between the Warriors team and the Houston fan base that stretches back between these guys.
Yep.
When we were beating James Harden and CP3, like there's already kind of an inset FU there.
Houston openly said many, many years ago that they were trying to build a team to beat the Warriors, not to do anything else.
Yeah, right.
They specifically were trying to do it and then couldn't.
Yep. And they were the only ones while everyone else zagged. We're like, okay, this is the Warrior shit. Daryl Morey was like, nope, I will take them head on. So no, you're exactly right. There is an FU between Tari Eason and Draymond Green. We got the whole Warriors come out and play thing from Tari Eason when they were screaming up the standings last year, and then it went nowhere. Draymond responded by pointing out that Tari wasn't playing. There's a fuck you to no one's surprise between Draymond and Dylan Brooks. Dylan releases a long ass quote about all the things he's not a really big fan of Draymond about. And then Draymond releases basically a full podcast breaking down why that quote was bullshit. In fact, I think we got a little bit of that. If we've got that, let's play that here.
This idiot said, I don't know what Draymond does out there. He said, I don't like Draymond at all. You don't know me. I just don't like Golden State. I quite frankly wouldn't like a team that beats me all the time either. I don't like anything to do with them. Quite frankly, you were a little kid in high school watching us win championships. Should be happy that you even witnessed that. Or maybe college, but you get the point. You're a fan. Draymond talks a lot. You talk a lot now. So if you have 4 rings, sure, you talk a lot more. For
we get the sense. There you go.
Probably talk a bit more.
For those who want to hear the full thing, look it up because he says "fuck you" 1,000 times. And most recently, there's an FU, as you mentioned, Sarah. There's an FU between Steph and Udoka, the head coach. We ended that last game, and there's some back and forth heading into halftime, and they both kind of made light of it. I mean, what else are they going to do? But there's no, I shouldn't say no better. There is a incredible level of entertainment when two people dislike each other. If they're playing Scrabble and you told me these guys hate each other, I'd watch a little bit of it. I don't give a shit about the Scrabble, but why do they hate each other? Tell me more. And so these guys hate each other, which makes for incredible television. Before I give you the other series questions, let me give you a don't like. Here's what I don't like. I don't like that JK's out of the rotation. I don't like this feel. And let me hedge. Unlike some portions of the Warriors fan base, I trust Steve Kerr. He's earned it. There's no other way. I do not head coach an NBA team. I have not led anybody anywhere, let alone 4 championships. I've never been to an Olympic set. He knows what's up. And so if he's decided this is how the playoff rotation needs to be, then I'm willing to accept that decision. But from just like a personal standpoint, just what this must be like for JK, I don't like it. It makes me feel awkward. And I don't like any changes to the rotation the week before the playoffs. I wouldn't mind if they knew for sure what they were going to do with this guy. And so I hope and trust. I am assuming there's conversations behind the scenes where they're finding out some kind of easy truth. Something like, look, we both know you probably won't be here next year, but let's figure out how we both get what we want, how to maximize your value, how to maximize your contract, and we'll see what they play out. But that's why I didn't like it. And one of the things I really wanted to ask you, Sarah, what's your perception of him? What's JK's value outside of the Bay Area?
That's interesting because I think that kind of on a national scale, not even just like outside of the Bay Area, but just like NBA wide, I don't think that he has like exposure enough to where like there are even talking points about him, if you know what I mean. Like he's not someone that anybody's like, oh, if we could just get Jonathan Kuminga, right?
Right.
Pods, yes, he's had the exposure, right? Like even Moody, right? Like, and so unless he was given like a little bit of shine, if anything, his exposure on a national scale is that he's getting benched or that he's out of the rotation or like all of these things that are negative. So it's like to have a take on him would require me to actually see him play meaningful minutes. Yep.
Which is exactly why I'm asking. And what I'm afraid of kind of,
yeah.
Like if where this is headed is a probable trade, then I don't know if they're going to get anywhere close to what we think will be fair value because nobody else has a fucking opinion about this guy. There's not enough tape. And it would be this run that would increase that. It's the playoff shit that like people tend to watch. And if what they're going to watch is a bunch of stories of, oh, he's out of the rotation, I don't, that's not going to help. That's not going to help this in any way, shape, or form. All right, to our serious questions. So the first is what I've already covered. Sarah did too. Maxime, what's your elevator pitch? I used to call this the Erica angle. If I was trying to convince my wife to watch a series she otherwise didn't give a shit about, because she cares about the Warriors, but she, like the rest of the stuff she won't. What would be the pitch on this?
Yeah, I think I would show that back and forth with Dylan Brooks, more the on the court stuff as opposed to the Draymond stuff. But because I think it's impossible, maybe even if you're not a Golden State fan, so long as you're not a Houston fan, to look at that and not be like, well, I kind of hate this guy. He just like is kind of hateable, so long as you don't watch Court of Gold, because he actually seems like a nice guy.
I thought he seemed fake. So
okay, tell me more, because that scene has really changed my opinion on him.
Oh, absolutely. I hated Dylan Brooks more after watching that.
Oh, okay.
It's like,
why?
Because it was like, oh, look at what all of this looks like behind the scenes. And then like with Dylan Brooks, it's like, oh, I know that people don't like me, but like, look at this really staged event where my family is. They are all smiling. I am saying nice things. Yes, please. Smile. Like, I was just like, oh, come on. Like, just show what you're really like, man. No one wants to see this.
God damn it, Sarah. I missed you. Holy shit. I mean, so like it worked for me. If they staged that shit for me, I was like, he's a nice guy.
I wrote it off immediately. I was like, fuck this guy.
I have legitimately been like, you don't really know the real Dylan Brooks. I saw him in a beautiful Parisian restaurant where he was surrounded by loving family. And
and like, of course he's smiling at dinner with his family. That says nothing to me about him. I also smile when I eat.
Here's an update. I will be stealing the steak 100%. So for anyone listening, if you could forget that Sarah just said that, it'd be really, really good for me. Maxime, I cut you off. I'm sorry. I was just so excited to hear the Court of Gold stuff.
I think we also need to point out that Udoka was the coach of the Celtics when we beat them in 2022, and that's an opportunity for a revenge for sure. He's also an excellent coach, and I think that's something to just be concerned about. Maybe that's not something that gets Erica all that excited, but it definitely gets me excited. And then I think that anybody that is even casually interested in the Golden State Warriors, or maybe especially if you're casually interested in the Golden State Warriors, you want to watch Steph go off. And so you're either going to really enjoy that because it's going to happen, or you're going to be super fucking frustrated because if you thought what Scottie Pippen Jr. was doing to Steph in the Memphis game was egregious, wait till you see what Amin Thompson is doing. I understand that people like our friend Wes are advocating for him being Defensive Player of the Year for good reason. He's amazing. Also, my God, does he drape himself all over Steph? And that's what they plan to do. It's going to be very frustrating to watch, which will give you some feeling, regardless of whether or not it's good, and that's the enjoyment of playoff basketball.
If I was talking to Erica, I would also say because kind of what gets me fired up about watching basketball is like, if I have a heel, right? Is there someone for me to hate? Mm-hmm. Just tell her to Google Dylan Brooks game day outfits, and then tell her that like even on off days he doesn't take his sunglasses off at night, and that'll do it. End of story.
I wasn't sure if I was going to get a chance to say this, and I'll make it fast. But what struck me as really fake? That scene in Court of Gold when he was with his family. I think that whole thing. I think the whole thing was just staged, like an attempt to change. We don't have to talk about it now. Off air. We'll
talk about it later.
I'll cover with you for sure. All right. You guys will see these series questions are structured in a real question over under. Real question over under. So just did our real question. Here's our over under. It's kind of related. The number is 5.5. Sarah, do you take the over under on how many technical fouls will be called during this series?
Over.
Maxime?
I take the under, but that's more because I believe it's, the playoff basketball things will tighten up and people will get more focused.
I'm going during an entire series, at least 2 to the coaches.
Yeah.
At least 2 to Draymond, and fuck it, let's give 2 to Dylan Brooks too.
There you go. You're at your 6. And I should add this reminder, Maddie Stats is back in the fold. We like to keep track of our predictions. And so, Sarah, there is a listener and a friend who we love, who listens in, writes down all our predictions, and then kicks out who got the most predictions right of everybody out there. So there are pseudo stakes to this. I also take the over. I came to the 5.5 because like if there's one per game and it goes 7, check my math on this, but that'd be 7.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be a little bit less than that, but fuck it. I've got a theme of hate. Let's keep it going. I'll take the over on 5.5 to a real question. Sarah, who has the better home court advantage? Not like who has the home court advantage, because obviously it's the Rockets, but
right.
whose fan base will propel their team more during this series?
I mean, this used to be an easy question.
Yep.
We're talking Chase Center, though.
Yes, it did. Yeah, exactly right. So I'm asking you. That's 100% why I'm asking. And I'll tell you that updated Chase Center over the last month has come into its own. Not Oracle. It's not the same thing. They still need signs literally reminding people to go back to their seats.
Mm-hmm.
But if you give them the right cues, if you tell them what to do, they do it really well now.
I think that it makes it much more difficult, but I lean towards a Bay Area crowd 100 times out of 100 times.
Maxime?
I don't know. I felt pretty disappointed at the end of the Memphis game. Granted, I was not in the building, but it felt like a bunch of people that were there to watch entertainment as opposed to be a part of the entertainment. It just did not feel like fanaticism. And I think if we're going to use that terminology, also, I just feel like it's more likely that we're going to see red shirts in Houston than we see yellow shirts in Golden State. But we can talk about that later. I think in the same way that Houston is being labeled as a hungry young fan base or team, the fan base is going to be the same way. They really want this, and the Chase Center crowd kind of expects it.
Unsolicited advice to Raymond Ritter or whoever it is who makes the decision to give out shirts: don't. They're not going to put them on, and it makes us look like assholes when they hand them out, and then only like 20% of them have them there. Hand out something else, like a towel or something that doesn't require you to put it on, but you can still like pseudo use, because they will do that. Maxime, you've kind of scared me in my answer, because you're not wrong. Who knows if these guys, if things go wrong. And in fact, let me give you my answer and then why I'm scared. Here's my answer. I thought it'd be us. And it's not because of what Chase Center fan is capable of. It's because of the inset cringe factor for Houston fan. Those fuckers remember that we beat them. And if we come in there and punch them in the mouth a couple of times in that first quarter, I think there's going to be some sitting on the hands. I think they're going to like a PTSD response. But what you scared me about is that Warrior fans used to know if the team was playing poorly, it was their job to wake them up. I'm not sure they know that anymore. If they play poorly now, people react to it like a sad movie. Like you don't cheer during a sad movie. You just kind of like, oh, this sucks. I'm sad now. So I really hope that's not true. And I hope they show up. So I'm out of optimism. I'm going to go Chase Center, but I guess we'll find out. All right. Another over.
This is so fucking depressing.
No, but they can still pull it. I mean, what's happened is,
it's so annoying. It's annoying, right? Like you can't take something away from people and then price those same people out and then be like, come treat us the same. Hey, new people who don't understand the situation, come treat us the exact same way that everyone else did for this many decades. It's really annoying.
100% right. What's switched, and I haven't, this has just come to me now, so if it gets gargled, my apologies. But it used to be that people just loved basketball, and so they were at the games. And they knew what to do. They knew how to interact. It was intuitive. You loved basketball, so you knew how to root for basketball. Now people just want to watch basketball because they've heard of how popular it is, because it was a thing going on in the Bay Area. It's a fucking dynasty. And so they went to basketball games because they wanted to watch it. They weren't.
You can court business partners and you can rent out a suite and blah, blah.
So for those people, it's a paint by numbers. You tell them to say defense, they'll say defense. You tell them to be in the fucking seats, they'll be in the seats. But there's no intuitive response because it's not intuitive. So they don't have a response for it. So, whoever is in charge of the big board, just have a lot of instructions, man. Give them the right, colors of paint, and they'll paint it in. Next number. Maxime, take this one first. The number is 15. Over under. How many minutes will JK play the entire series?
Oh, the entire series. Well, shout out
definitely
to
not a
my
game.
guy, Denver Goofy, asking for, do you guys think that he's going to at least play 6 to 10
Denver Goofy's
minutes?
taking the over. He's taking the hard over, if it's 6 to 10.
I mean, right, on the one hand, he's exactly the answer to what I was just talking about. This is an old veteran team that's going to get kind of bruised by this younger exciting team. And that's exactly what Jonathan Kuminga is good for. And you hear Kerr saying, and I don't just think it's platitudes, like there will be space for him in the upcoming series. You hear Draymond sort of propping him up too. This is the series, right? Kuminga has played well against the Rockets when we've seen them this year. So you would hope that he would have some amount of minutes. But at the same time, like we just
didn't he not play him in that game? Yeah,
twice in a row.
Last 2 games.
So I'm not feeling the confidence within the organization to play him. And I think if I don't know, I'm taking the over because, as I've said into this microphone a million times before, he kind of is the X factor, right? And in maybe the exact same way that like Jimmy Butler passing out of the easy layup in the regular season is maybe some four-dimensional chess where he's actually like, oh, but then they won't be able to scout me because they don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe it's the same thing here, but that is a lot of copium.
Sarah, we're going to ramp up to you because it's your answer that matters. All right. I'm going to give you both sides of it. Okay. Here's the why under. Playoff rotations are a real thing. When they decide, all right, we got to find out the extra minutes we're giving to our superstars. Those minutes have to come from a different place. And the Warriors went to a playoff rotation 2 games ago. Right. They needed to beat the Clips. They didn't. They needed to, and they needed to beat Memphis. They did. They went to a playoff rotation, and the minutes they cut, JK. Not 1 minute in either of those 2 games. And from all credible reports, it sounds like maybe that was signed off on by the veterans on the team, without dropping any names. Maybe they did ask some people, are you okay with that? And they all said yes. All right. But here's
their names are Bluffin, Murray, and
yeah, exactly right. And Fremont Fleen. Yeah. But the other side to this, and this kind of dovetails on what I was saying earlier. Kerr, I believe in being a locker room maestro. Like he knows how personalities work. And I think that JK and the team probably understand that their futures aren't necessarily intertwined. And they know that JK wants to be Jalen Green, but that's not going to happen here. So I hope that they've gone to him and said, you know how to go get the contract you want and the team you want to be playing for. Show that you're willing to play ball with us during this playoff setting. We're going to, go in there, get rebounds, play hard physical ass defense, give us hard, 5 hard as fuck fouls against whoever, just playing these little moments, do that. And then after this, we'll find you a location and everything's going to work out. So if they can convince him to do that, then yeah, of course they'd find minutes for him. We're playing a team that desperately needs a young athlete like him. So there's kind of the setup. All right. After all of that, I take the under. They fucking looked at this guy in the 2 games we needed desperately. The Clips are filled with athletic wings. Memphis has not the same kind of youth that Houston does, but it's not like we were playing a veteran-laden team. And he looked at both and said, yep, you sit over there. And JK wasn't in the huddles really, and it didn't look like he had taken a real. So there's the analysis. Enough vamping. What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm taking the under. Because as you were talking, there were moments where I was like, yeah, okay. And then you would say something, I'd be like, no, that doesn't make sense. Because if you're telling the guy hey, you want to get the contract you think you deserve? And then I'd be like, yes, but I need to play during the regular season to get it. Right. And hey, do you want to get the contract you deserve? Go do these things. Well, I'm not ready because you weren't playing me in the games leading up to this.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're setting me up for failure, or you're setting me up to get the contract that you want to pay, not what I think I deserve.
That's a great take. I hope you're wrong, but that's a great fucking take. Yeah, you are. That makes sense to me. All right, let's get the hell out of this topic. Another major question: who will be the most hateable Rocket by the end of this series? I haven't gone first, so I'll take this one. There's some easy ones. All right, Dylan Brooks is what everyone's thinking. And we've played the why. But I mean, I now think that Dylan Brooks is a really nice person, so I can't pick him. The next one down is Tari Eason. Again, easy. Tari Eason told us he doesn't like the Warriors. We got the clip, but you don't have to play it, Maxime. He went out of his way during a back and forth to be like, look, I just don't like Golden State. And, no love lost here either. Tari can go fuck himself, but he's not the guy. For me, it is Udoka. And it's going to be because he will be the face of this swarming defense. If Steph has an off night, we're going to hear about Udoka. He will have some pomp. If we have success in a game in Houston, I think we're going to have a fiery Steph press conference from Udoka speaking to his players through the press, because he understands how to motivate and will do that stuff. He's going to be a WWE villain through this, and I think he's the guy I'm going to leave thinking nasty things about. And we got a history of him, with the Celtics and all of that. So yeah, he's my pick.
Yeah, I think, God, that's a great answer. Those are the two I think most likely. I think there's a part of me that's like, well, it's old hat, right? Like hating Dillon Brooks. I've done that before, right? It's not as fun, but I still think that he can get me mad, right? Yeah. Like I still think that I can get there. So I am going to pick Dillon Brooks, because like I am certain at some point, even if Dillon Brooks had an incredible game and then on the podium, Steve Kerr's like really got to hand it to Dillon Brooks, like he played an incredible game, I'd be like, fuck that guy. He was so rude. So yeah, I'm picking Dillon Brooks.
Yeah, I got a new over-under. It's 3, and it's how many times I'm going to tell you I hell have missed you. I'm going to take the over, because I hell have missed you. I love that fucking answer. Also, I forgot about how many times you wear sunglasses inside. So if we do catch some sunglass inside thing,
100, I guarantee it. I absolutely
trigger me immediately. Maxime, do you think that Sarah in her entire life has ever worn sunglasses inside for longer than like 5 minutes? Because we all do the like transition. You come in and like you haven't taken them off. Has she ever, for whatever reason, kept them on for a longer than 5 minute period?
Yeah, but I think the reason is legitimate. It's something like I'm trying not to be noticed, or maybe like I got a black eye, or like honestly I'm just so hungover that I can't even. Like it's not because she's trying to do the Dillon Brooks thing. There's a good reason. You don't need to say the reason, Sarah, if that's the truth. But
no, it's okay. Can I tell a story?
Of course.
I've worn sunglasses inside for longer than 5 minutes exactly one time. One time. Go. It was in a movie theater in Chico, California.
Oh, wow.
It was right at the end of the first Sex and the City movie. I had gotten out of a really bad breakup the day before I went to that movie with my friends, and I was sobbing. I was uncontrollably crying watching Sex and the City, which is, number one, embarrassing, and number two, just a lot of mascara. And I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. And so movie ended. I put my sunglasses on, waited for a bunch of people to filter out, and then just immediately fell down the stairs in the movie theater. And I fell so hard that I cut my knee open, and I still have a scar. So yeah, I learned my lesson, and never have I worn them inside since.
That is an incredible story. Incredible enough. I will be transparent with you. I got a story for you, sir. This is like first some background. My kid is 9, which is insane to me, and it's happened way faster than I want it. Like way faster, and that's what everybody says. I'm not breaking any fucking news, but I'm neurotic about it, like I am about everything else. And I recently brought her and a friend to a movie called The Wild Robot, which I can tell you now is a fucking allegory for parenthood. I did not know that, but that's what it is. And the big allegory is you got to say goodbye, essentially. And so I recognize what the movie's about 75 minutes into a 90-minute movie, and spend the back 25 minutes sobbing. And Kylie, my daughter, knows I can get a little emotion, especially when it comes to kids, but her friend fucking does not, dude. Like the friend is just there with a random dad. And so we get out into the lobby. It's like 3 p.m. I throw on sunglasses and throw out to no one in particular, man, it's bright. And the kid is like, we're inside. It's like, the fuck are you talking about, dude? And I couldn't have shit to say. One, because I'm sobbing. And so I would have been talking like that, but like, we just didn't say anything. We walked back to the car. It was what it was. So really, really good times. Maxime.
Don't wear sunglasses inside. Number one, it's dangerous. Okay, that's it.
Dillon Brooks.
Stupid Dillon Brooks.
I'm already mad because I know that at some point Dillon Brooks is going to wear some sort of large fur coat with nothing underneath it up top and sunglasses, and I'm annoyed.
You're about to make me change my answer. Maxime, who's your most hateable?
Well, I mean, it is Dillon Brooks, but just to provide another person that we're probably going to end up hitting by the end of the series. Alperen Sengun, right? There was a lot of beef with the elbowing Sengun thing with Draymond, and I'm sure that's going to rear its head, and that might make me change my answer about the number of technicals now that I think about it. But we are where we are now. That has already come and gone. And I also think, right, he's like, we're a smaller team. He's going to kind of body us a lot, and I think it's going to get physical with him too, and that's going to start to really piss me off.
I didn't even have him on my list. Man, this is going to be a hate-filled series. I am on board for it. A new number, 14. 14. Over under the lowest amount of points Steph Curry will have in a game during this series. Because, Sarah, one of the big things we're going to hear 1,000 times, the last time they played Houston, scored 3 points. Amen Thompson is all over him. What you'll hear from Warriors fans is that was at the end of a brutal 4-game stretch. Brutal. In which the Warriors won the first 3 and then ran out of gas on the 4th. So I put the number 14. What do you guys think? Over, under season or single game total for Steph Curry? Over. Show him some respect. Over.
100%.
Of course it's over.
I am going to go over because, it's the playoffs, right? It's Steph. It's the playoffs. All he needs is 3 shots to basically get there, right? And then put him at the free throw line. And so I doubt that there's going to be a game that he doesn't get that.
Don't tell me the but. I can see you're about to
no,
give me a
not
but.
Give me a but. If there's a game on the under, that's concerning.
We'll jump off that bridge when we come to it. Maxime, I'm going to change the number for you, and I'm going to change it in the form of an ad read. Huddle members. Are you playing Underdog? Underdog just became one of the best places to make picks during the basketball playoffs with their extender promo. With the extender, you can play your way to increasingly bigger boosts each round of the playoffs. Underdog is a leading place to make all of your sports picks, and you can play now in your state, including the Golden State of California. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog, and you could be next to play. All you have to do is download the app, choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats. You can choose from things like points, assists, and so much more. Once your picks feel good, you can play for as little as $1, and if you get them all right, you could turn that $1 into $1,000. Maxine, let's do it right now. All right. So Sunday, first game against Houston. Underdog has Steph's point total at 25.5 for the first game. I'm going to take the over. Why not? Huge game. Start to the playoffs. It's Steph Curry establishing his legacy, his ongoing reputation. I take the over. Where you at?
Hell yeah, I take the over too, because if there's anything that we know is that Steph is the petty king, and he's going to be thinking about that 3-point, and he's going to come out and show him who's boss.
Let's go. Sarah, by your vigorous nodding, I know that you agree. Download the Underdog app and sign up with promo code WHP to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. That's promo code WHP. As in Warriors Huddle podcast, you must be 18 plus to play, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona and Massachusetts, and you have to be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/extend.html for details. If you're concerned with your play, you can call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, that's the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE New York, or you can text HOPE-NY. All right. Our final 3 question. Well, I'll give you one more over. 0.5, just because I want to hear your response to it. How many times will 2 players have to be separated, physically separated during this series? Fights don't really happen anymore. We don't really see that. So that used to be this question: how many fights will there be? The answer to that is a hard under. But what's replaced them is that move where they kind of circle each other, touching shoulders, and then maybe somebody has to come in. So do you think that will happen at least one time before this series is over?
Oh my God, yes. Over. The over under is 1?
0.5. I have it even less. Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say like 5. And I was
take it. Do you think that'll happen?
Yeah, I'm taking the over.
Maxime, you agree?
Yeah, which now I'm like, shit, I should have picked the over on technicals too, but here we are.
I love that that's really clearly in your head.
It's eating at him, man.
It made me super happy. Meanwhile, he could change it. It's not like we've they're listening.
No, not with Maddie.
Right
No, Maddie, don't you dare. Matt, I know you're listening to this. Don't you dare.
Maddie, I'm texting you later.
Yeah.
Check your texts.
Lose his number. Who will lead the series in points per game? I'll go first. Shocking answer. Jimmy. Jimmy.
Ooh.
I think that Udoka is throwing everything at Steph. I think it's a personal fucking thing now.
Yeah.
I think that they have like a number of schemes that are designed specifically for that. And they won a game where those schemes mattered. They held them to 3 and we ended up coming up short. But that was before the speaker got turned up to 11. I do think there's going to be, some real playoff Jimmy shit. And I think he does. I think he leads the series in scoring.
That is an incredible answer, Bram.
Hey, thanks. I don't know why you haven't said that before during this podcast, but I'll take it, dude.
In all of the years, no.
I finally got it. Oh, I finally had one.
Man, that's a really good answer. I don't know that. I mean, my gut reaction was Steph. I'm gonna just stick with that. But your reasoning is so sound.
Let's go. Maxime, who are you agreeing with? And if you say anything about the technical thing, I'm going to take it hard now. Just move on to the next question.
I think we saw from the Memphis game that Jimmy is very capable of putting up serious points such that he could be the leading scorer in the series. And I think that you're very reasonable. If Steph ends up with a game that is less than 14, I still think it will be in a Golden State win because Jimmy should be the person in control of the ball when it comes to clutch time. Like Steph is an incredibly clutch player. I have all the confidence in the world about him, but he's going to get double teamed. He's going to get top locked. So what you need is somebody that can drive to the hoop and get it done. That's Jimmy. Now, with all of that vamping, I still take Sarah's side. I still think that it's going to be Steph overall just because he's so elite. This team, even though it's run by a veteran coach, as in somebody with incredible playoff acumen, the team themselves don't have the playoff acumen. We come out, we punch them in the mouth in the first quarter. They're going to be scrambling, and I think Steph's going to capitalize on that. He's been there so many times. This is the first series of what is hopefully a long playoff run, and Steph's going to come out absolutely guns blazing.
You see Sarah confidently nodding as you said, I agree with Sarah on that. Like it wasn't even that subtle. It was just like, of course you do, dude. Like,
Obviously,
yes. Just get to the end. We know exactly where you're coming on. All right. Last 3 questions, 2 of which are only for you, Sarah. The final one will be for the field. All right. The 3 questions, first 2 for you. Why can the Warriors lose? Why can the Warriors win? And then the one for all of us, prediction. Who wins and how many? Take the first 2. Why can they lose this series? What should we be afraid of?
They're too old. They lose because they just don't have the same juice that they used to. And no matter how many pods or jimmies you inject into the thing, what's leading the team is like an aging front line.
Yeah. Here's a very, very, very late don't like that I didn't say earlier. I don't like that Pods' 3-pointer has disappeared in the last fucking 2 games because we need somebody else, and it'd be nice to roll in if he was hot. All right. Why can the Warriors win?
Probably like almost the same reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they know what they're doing. They've been here before. And like you've got so many guys that have not been here before, right? Yep. Sengun, Thompson, Eason, Jalen Green, like so much of their young core has never played a single minute of important playoff basketball. And usually you kind of have to take your lumps.
Yep, exactly right. That's kind of the cool thing about our league is you got to get there before you can win there, you know, and we'll see how this thing plays out. I am strangely confident going in. And then we set it up front. This was the matchup I wanted. So here we are. It could very quickly become a careful what you've asked for scenario. But I guess we'll find out. Okay. Prediction time. Let's ramp up to Sarah. Maxime, who wins this series and in how many games?
Warriors in 5.
Oh, wow. That's confident as shit. What's the first 2 games look like? It's a split there, and then the Warriors win the rest. How do you? This isn't part of the prediction. Maddie doesn't have to include these, but how do you envision that 5 games playing out?
That's okay, Maddie. You can write it down. I won't text you later. I think we're winning both of them in Houston. I think we lose game 3. Yeah. I mean, right. Like, again, Ime Udoka is an excellent coach, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. I think he's going to be really savvy, make some really smart adjustments. Maybe like Kenny Smith, I think, said on the broadcast, like Jalen Green, he's going to turn into the next Jaylen Brown or whatever. And there's going to be this amazing game. They're going to come out in game 3 and absolutely surprise us. But overall, look, I mean, who on this, we just said it, like Fred VanVleet is like the highest paid player on this roster. He's supposed to be their great point guard. Like, this is a bunch of young guys. They're going to get absolutely put in a blender by this team. These guys are geniuses. Jimmy Butler is clearly... By the way, sorry, since we're at the end of the podcast here, and this is gonna be my last chance to talk about this. Reggie Miller was driving me fucking crazy. I feel like that was the most obnoxious calling of a game I have ever seen. He just like could not. He clearly was so excited to be like, "Oh, well, we know about playoff Jimmy, but now we know about play-in Jimmy." Like, shut up! On the 5th time, we don't need to hear it again. I was so tired of every single one of his takes. I felt like he was unprepared and uninteresting. But regardless, I think it is true that we have seen what Jimmy is capable of doing. I have never felt that we have somebody that can take over in the end of a game. I feel like we have all of the pieces to put together an incredible run. This team's going to have the rest that we didn't have after playing balls to the wall for the last 20 games of the season because we had to crawl out of our 25-26 hole that we had before the All-Star break. There's a lot of reason to think that this team is absolutely fucking excellent. And I'm not trying to say that Houston is bad, but they're just unprepared. They've not been here before. We should be the 2 seed, not Houston, if you had Jimmy for a full season. So feeling very confident.
Looking back and going forward, didn't hear any of Reggie Miller. They must have been singing "Happy Birthday" to Rogelio. Is that what's happening? Like, none of the sound was on, so I didn't get to hear it. I'm sure it would have bothered me. Another from the glass half full section, a like that I didn't use because I wanted to get far enough away from when Sarah said, "Look, when he was in fucking Philadelphia, he called Joel Embiid a superhero." A like is that he's been calling fucking Steph Batman. I had a whole clip prepared, prepared. But we're just going to keep it in pocket because fuck you, Sarah. You've ruined that for me entirely. But which gets to the prediction. I think Warriors in 6. And I'm the only 2 games I'm going to predict are the first 2. I think the Warriors lose the first one. And I think they lose it by like 8 to 10. I think we lose it. And I then think that Houston has an unnecessary aggressive confidence and we come up and beat that ass in the second game. Because the Warriors are just there to win the first or win one of the first 2. They understand how this shit plays out. And then we cruise to a 6-game victory. I should add the series opened at -200 in favor of the Warriors, which is bananas. For people who do not actively gamble, that means you'd have to bet 200 to win 1. They were the 2-1 fucking favorites. It's since gone down. Now it's -165. That means people are gambling on Golden State. But Vegas looked at it. Doesn't mean they think they were going to win. It means they think that's what the betting public thought. So a little bit of background. Sarah, what do you think? What's the prediction?
I just want Maddie to know that, like, I'm fine with taking L's. I do it daily, weekly, constantly. I'm okay being wrong. Houston in 7.
Whoa, jeez. Oh, boy.
I didn't know where you're going. I didn't know what you were going to say there. Oh, my God. I don't know. Do we have a boo sound? Can we play like a lusty boo right now?
It's okay. Boo me. Bring it.
Yeah, you bastard. Oh, I
don't think that it's, listen, I understand that on your podcast, it's going against the grain to say Houston in 7, but picking the 2 seed over the 7 seed in the playoffs.
Oh, God.
Listen, Maxime, if they should have been the 2 seed, if you'd had Jimmy, what, none of it happened.
Hi, holy shit. No, we just said we were disappointed. You don't need to fucking shove it down our throats, dude. Like, we didn't like push you back or anything. Okay. We understand. We get it. Maddie, make sure you underline that as incredibly wrong. Maxine, make sure you delete that entire fucking part. Do not let that
delete.
Don't let that out into the world.
Cut that part of the podcast.
Exactly right. Let's use ChatGPT and it'll just be Sarah's voice being like Warriors in 4. You know,
Warriors in 4. Sweet.
It'll sound a little off, but that's fine. You know, we can
I'll just say it. So if you want to cut that, Warriors in 4.
Boom.
there.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
Even I'm not that aggressively optimistic, but that's an incredible guess.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
genuinely appreciate it. Who's your pick to win it all, Sarah? Who knows when we'll get to hear from you next? So, do you have a prohibitive favorite?
Yeah, I mean, I am choosing the Thunder to win it.
Oh.
I'm like, that's the thing is like a lot of times I do my own like preseason predictions on my podcast where like I go through and I say this is who I think is going to win MVP and DPOY and all the end of season awards, and I say who's going to meet in the finals, how many games it's going to be, and I am just wrong at every turn constantly, and I'm doing
That's
it
great news for us.
all
really
completely vibes based, right? Like, oh, which one will feel the best as like an objective observer, not like who I think is the best. No, it's just like vibes based. The Thunder winning would be fun.
Do you know how incredible it is contextually that, I mean, I'm making an assumption that you're in a Warriors podcast with, I mean, I consider you a close friend, and the vibe-based thing you decided was vibes-based, Houston in 7, fuck yourself.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's such an incredible move by you. Like, that it really
No, because
is.
the vibes would, like, more than anything, I'm like Marie Kondo, I love mess. So Houston in 7 is the most amount of chaos that I would enjoy.
Here we are, Maxime. You slam that Sarah voice saying many times right here. You just like maybe some like horns, Warriors in 4, like something like that would be great. Sarah, I have been looking forward to having you on for a couple weeks. I am, to no one's surprise, this was fantastic. I know that there's a lot of people out there who need way more Sarah Todd in their life. Where do they go?
You can read all of my stuff at deseret.com. That's deseret.com. I don't really do Twitter stuff anymore. I'm there and I repost my articles, but you can follow me on Blue Sky and on Instagram, NBA Sarah. So find me over in the good spaces.
Yeah, exactly right. You know where to find us. This is where I will drop a take to go check us out on YouTube. Maxime is doing great things up there. We need your support. Watch, like, subscribe, all the things you're supposed to say after a take like that. With that in mind, go Warriors. Hopefully we'll see you real soon.